there's been a surge in sales of UK-made cars to Russia's neighbours, showing how it's beating the sanctions. We're going to read into this exclusive from Sky News, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from Sky News with the headline that the surge in the sale of UK-made cars to Russia's neighbours show how it's beating the sanctions. The analysis by Sky News suggests Russia is finding ways to evade the Ukrainian war sanctions by bringing in cars including luxury markets through the former Soviet state. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share across social media so others are notified of this video. To be absolutely blatant honest with you guys, I'm really not surprised by this because I've spoken about this on some other videos in the past, if not here, but on Rumble or on Patreon, about how it's really not that hard to still sell to Russia, things to Russia, without basically facing sanctions yourselves. Because the thing is, you only need to do it to a country outside that has trade with Russia in order to do that. And the thing is, it's kind of impossible to stop that unless you're going to apply the same sanctions to the countries that it trades with, which you're not going to do. You're not going to do that to Turkey, for example. You know, Turkey has a good relationship with Russia. They're like a middleman in the geography wise, aren't they? You know, you're not going to sanction Turkey, for example. Like obviously, if you're selling to Belarus, then there's a question marks there. But there are some other former Soviet states that they're not bothered about, where countries can sell to them and then they can go and sell on back into Russia. That's the thing, and that's what's happening now. So instead of obviously before the war in Ukraine, before everyone woke up and realized, oh, this is what kind of Russia it is, and people actually realize what kind of person Putin is, you were obviously able to trade to and from Russia. But now it's not a case that you can, that the sanctions, yes, the sanctions have hurt them, but basically it just means, yeah, people can still do deals with Russia. They just do it through another country that is able to trade with Russia, or that you can't sanction them because of it. So there are ways of getting around this. So to see this is not really too surprising. And especially, also you have to bear in mind as well, because this is obviously a surge in sales of UK-made cars to Russia. You have to bear in mind, since we left the EU, obviously, that has hampered a lot of business as well. So it shows also, I also think this is that's also played a part in it, in the desperation to continue to get some money in trade in as well. So I think that plays a role into all of this as well. But let's read more into this analysis that Sky have found here, guys. So, British car makers appear to have continued selling hundreds of millions of pounds of luxury vehicles to Russia, even after the invasion of Ukraine and the impositions of sanctions exposing the cars indirectly of the former Soviet states, Sky's analysis has suggested. While direct British car exports to Russia have fallen to zero following the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, that collapse has been followed by a corresponding increase in car exports to countries including neighbours, most notably Azerbaijan. Exactly. So this is like I said, this is what they're doing. So instead of going straight in, they're going to go straight to Azerbaijan, Armenia, like Georgia, countries outside of Russia, and then they're going to trade into Russia. That's how they're doing it now. Our analysis based on an official HMRC trade data finds that the UK exported £273 million of vehicles to Azerbaijan last year, a 1,860% increase compared to the 5-year period preceding the invasion. Funny that. So this is what their analysis has detailed here. The UK car exports. Obviously the blue line is Azerbaijan, and then the grey line is obviously Russia. So obviously we had lots of trade there, deal with Russia. Obviously dropped because of the COVID, and then went back up again. Trade was obviously questionable, but yeah, I mean, even in like 2016, like it's still like after 2016, look at this, a massive increase. Like there's a lot of dipping and diving here on the question, but Yeah, and then obviously the timeline there of Russia's invasion. It was already the exports were already going down, but they've now flatlined there. But just if you just look here, so obviously Azerbaijan had tiny little bits, but nothing really there. But you can see shortly after it, you can see the surge there, the massive surge there. There seems to be a slight blip in 2023, but it seems to have just shot back up this year from the looks of it, according to their analysis, obviously here. So not only is this the increase in exports to Azerbaijan unprecedented, it is also of a similar magnitude to the annual car exports to Russia in the 2 years before the imposition of sanctions, which averaged £330 million. According to UK's HMRC statistics, Sky News has analysed UN international trade data, which shows that over precisely the same period that Britain recorded an unprecedented increase in car exports to Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan has recorded an unprecedented increase in car exports to Russia. So Azerbaijan to Russia there. So you can see here. So this is obviously their analysis here. This is from the source of the UN Comtrade, according to Sky News, what they've established here. So obviously, after 2022, after the Russian invasion, you can see here the numbers of the graph here. Obviously, after it just boomed pretty much. A little bit of dipping here and there, but not too much. If you can actually let's just look there for a second. Now you look there, because obviously that was the UK car exports, and then you look at it there. It's not too different really there, is it, to be fair? The data chimes with testimony from Sky sources who told us that while Russian car buyers sources German vehicles had primarily sent them via Kazakhstan, they prefer to use Azerbaijan as a route for British cars. British car makers insist they are no longer selling cars to Russia, and the government data collected by HMRC on all goods leaving the country do not constitute proof that the cars end up in Russia. It is impossible to track each British consignment once it has left port, especially once it has arrived at a third country. And this is the thing. It's no guarantee. Now, obviously, one of the obvious comments can be like, well, Regan, there's no guarantee that you know that those cars going to Azerbaijan are actually going to Russia. There's no actual evidence to suggest that while there are graphs there to indicate that it might have been, there's no actual evidence to suggest that the trade that we are doing with Azerbaijan, these cars are going to them. And you're right, there isn't actual any solid evidence. But if you look at, like, just looking at these graphs, for example, Joe shows the highlight of this. And I said right at the start of this video, guys, about how easy it is now. Okay, you can't do direct trade with Russia. But what they're doing now is they're using a middleman, a middle country in between to be able to do anything like that. And this is where it is. But the thing is, how do you manage that? How do you stop that? How do you stop it from going to a third country, a third party, stop that third party from shipping it to Russia? And the answer is, in my opinion, you can't. How do you stop that? Like, can you get, like, you need to give us some ironclad assurances you're not going to sell these to Russia. Yes, we won't sell these to Russia. Like, is that it? You're going to take their word, or maybe a contract or something to say you're not going to sell them? Like, what's the thinking here? Because I'm trying to see, like, because I'm trying to figure out right now, how are they supposed to stop this? Like, how are you supposed to stop your sales or your trades or your items from trying to stop people in the UK going from third countries from selling into third countries into Russia? I don't see how you can kind of stop that. That's the thing here. It's impossible to track each consignment. However, the government are concerned about this grey area, whereby goods may be sent to Russia via former Soviet satellite states in the Caucasus and Central Asia. It's right to call it a grey area because I don't see the solution at the moment. Cars are among the items banned from Russia under the so-called dual-use sanctions regime. There is a specific ban of sales of luxury cars, these worth more than £42,000 to Russia. The HMRC database, which also shows the court of cars sold as well as the total value, reveals that the average of value of UK car exports to Azerbaijan was more than £100,000, suggesting that the consignments are primarily or exclusively luxury cars. So this is sourced from HMRC. This is the average unit of UK cars exported. there, and Bahrain the highest as Saudi with 134,834. Saudi Arabia with 112,000, Azerbaijan 106,000, Oman 102,000, and just under 100,000 there, 99,000 Kazakhstan there. Yeah, it's quite a few countries there. I mean, obviously not, they're not all situated near Russia, let's be clear. Excuse me, I do apologise. But Saudi Arabia, obviously, that's understandable considering the wealth they have, and with luxury cars and whatnot. So that doesn't surprise us there. But yeah, Azerbaijan obviously is the one that people should be looking at. Obviously, Kazakhstan as another one as well. Britain's motorist lobbying group, the SMMT, said UK vehicle manufacturers are committed to fully compliance with all current and future trade sanctions. While trade flow can vary and indeed be quite volatile with growing economics, there is no valuable evidence to indicate a lack of compliance without existing sanctions, but manufacturers will remain vigilant. We would condemn any party that puts their commitment and compliance at risk. Sanction experts said part of the challenge in combating the flow of goods to Russia via third countries, as appears to be happening in this case, is that it's very difficult, because sometimes near impossible, to track those consignments once they enter those other countries. Tom Kiskus, director of the Centre of Financial Crime and Security Studies, the Royal United Services Institute, said there is obviously very close economic ties between places like Azerbaijan, Armenia and Russia. They sit with a kind of common economic area. And so really, once the goods is in that area, your ability to track it in the manufacturer in the UK is lost. What you should, of course, be asking yourself when it comes to exporting that car is whether it might be initially is, do I really think that this exporter who's suddenly come out of nowhere to buy 100 cars is actually importing cars only into a third country, or might this be trying to make money out of circumstances, sanctions that are selling onwards into Russia? And to some of these businesses, guys, to them, there are some businesses out there. Now, I'm not putting words in any business's mouth, but to some people, it's just a case of like, how can I put this? Like they don't care. Like, to them, it's like, oh, but we are just luxury car companies. We're not contributing to the war. We're not making things worse. At the end of the day, we're business just trying to make money just like any other company. And that's kind of the premise that some of these will have. They're like, some of them may be concerned about the fact that they may unintentionally maybe supporting Russia. Some may not even care that some of their cars are going to Russia. At the end of the day, as long as the bottom pound comes in, they're making their profits. Who really gives a damn? So there's also that as well. I don't think there's a morality whatsoever with some of these companies, if I'm perfectly honest, about them actually going into Russia. I think they're more concerned about if they find themselves in any kind of legality or legal situation where they find that their product is in Russia and authorities here in the UK know that their products are somehow being sold in Russia indirectly by a company that they are selling it to. That could potentially be a problem for them. I say the word could because we don't know for certain. But at the same time, they could turn around and say, well, we don't know. But, we trust this company to look after it. But, again, there's no, like it said in the article here, there's no real way to track this. This is a big issue. So, Rolls-Royce, which is owned by BMW, says, Rolls-Royce Motor Cars ceased production and supply of cars for the Russian market in late February 2022 before international trade sanctions were put in place. In that meantime, governments have implemented far-reaching sanctions and we're fully complied with and support. Retail sale of cars and clients are managed by a global dealer network comprised of independently owned and operated businesses. Our global deal network is contractually obliged to follow all applicable national and international legal regulations, including those relating to export controls. If any new Rolls-Royce motor cars have been imported to Russia since late February 22, this has been done so without the knowledge or support of the Rolls-Royce motor cars. Well, again, you can't stop it. That's the thing. A representative from Bentley, owned by VW, said, we are committed to fully compliance with all current and future trade sanctions. There is no evidence to suggest that a lack of compliance with existing sanctions or indeed a change of sales trend in Azerbaijan. While the HMRC data does not identify specific car makers' consignments, it does show that the port most used in this particular trade from the UK was the port of Bristol, which has never previously exported more than a few £1 million worth of goods each year to Azerbaijan. In the 2 years following the invasion, it has saw these exports shoot up by more than £100 million a year. The port of Bristol does not respond did not respond to Sky News' request for comment. And the Port of Bristol are not going to say anything because they're making money. Why would they? Especially when here in this country, no, Bristol, like many others, are not making as much money as they used to because we're in a cost of living crisis right now. Councils, as we know, are struggling. Do you think they're going to turn up? You think as to them it's like, well, we're just selling cars to Azerbaijan. It's nothing to do with us. And they're making money off this as well. So they're not really going to talk about it, are they? So for the UK as a whole, the dramatic rise in exports to Azerbaijan stands out in trade statistics. In the space of a couple of years, this state of 10 million people with a GDP around the same size as Ghana has become the UK's car industry's 16th biggest export destination by value, ahead of Austria, Portugal and Sweden. So there's a video analysis there, part of it. I'm not going to play it, but if you want to watch that, you're more than welcome to. The link is for the articles in the description, guys. So Sky News has previously shown that many other banned items, including those that have been repurposed as weapons, have been sent to the former Soviet states in the Caucasus in Central Asia, including Kyrgyzstan and Armenia. Those states have all recorded sharp increases in their exports to Russia. Britain's Sanctions Minister Anne-Marie Televan said the work of the investigative journalists and NGOs continues efforts to highlight self-convention of an important part of our collective efforts to track and evidence Putin's abhorrent crimes. We have introduced the largest and most severe package of sanctions ever imposed on Russia, or indeed any other major economy, with 2,000 individuals and entities under the Russian regime. Alongside international allies, have been made clear no country should be propping up Russia's war machine. We continue to bear down on those who do business with Putin and his cronies, including sanctioned individuals who try to bypass our sanctions, and working with partners in a range of third countries to stem the flow of goods into Russia. Now, obviously, this is just analysis from Sky, analysis on Sky News Air exclusive with regards based on cars. Now, how do you contract this with other goods and other things in there? Like, for example, like how would you let's just say hypothetically, are there chances that is there a possibility that let's just say hypothetically that British weapons, we know they've been going to Israel and that's pretty pathetic, but abhorrent. Let's say hypothetically, is there a chance that British weapons could end up in Russia by a third country? Yes, it's entirely possible. Again, it comes down to how these are tracked after they've left Britain. And that's the problem. Excuse me, that's the problem here. So it doesn't even have to be cars. It can be anything else as well. And the thing is that actually, while they are helping Russia, these third countries who are being basically a middleman, they're actually making a bit of money out of this allegedly as well, if you think about it, because instead of obviously countries trading directly with Russia, they're now trading with all these other countries, these smaller nations. This is an opportunity for them to make money. How? Well, they'll take commission of any kind of trade that's done through these. So they actually can essentially make money off this. And it's just said, highlighted in there, how Bristol Port is now all of a sudden making money since after the war in Ukraine, because we're not directly doing trade with Russia, but they obviously their trade has increased with Azerbaijan, and they will not want that money to stop flowing in as well. So this is a difficult contagion web that I don't see how you can untangle this, because I don't see how you can stop third countries exporting goods that you've sent to them to Russia. I don't see how you can do that. And the like, unless of course there's some kind of legality that the United Nations, or they have some kind of trackers or something. I don't know if they have somebody constantly watching where the goods go and sold in Azerbaijan. But even then, like as an example, but even then you don't know after that is sold to somebody in Azerbaijan, how do you know that person's not going to go and sell it on in Russia or whatever? Like, it's just no way to stop this. Like, and at this current point, like, and I know people are saying that Russia are struggling. There's actually been some conflicting information about Russia's economy and the state that it's in. There are some reports I've seen that Russia's doing all right. There are still some people who are saying that Russia's doing really bad. I mean, I'm generally, hand on heart, I don't think Russia is really suffering right now. I don't think Russia is really suffering as an economy. They initially were, of course, when the war started, because everyone imposed all the sanctions on them. But they have recovered. they have recovered since then. Because and these third countries are actually making a bit of buck off all this as well, because they're being used as feeders into Russia. So I don't just see it just as UK car makers. I also see it as other products too. I covered a story a while ago about, I mean, even how Belarus, who were able to ship in lots of cigarettes, illegal cigarettes, into the UK, because of like the borders that we have with us as well. So there's lots and lots of issues with this. So I'm not quite sure how you would address this. But how would you address this, guys? If you can address this, is there a way to actually address this? What can the UK government do? Can they do anything? Is there anyone can do anything about this? Because quite frankly, you're doing it into a third country that is going on to sell it on into Russia. If I'm honest, I don't see a solution to this and how you stop this. But maybe some of you guys might have some ideas on that. Or maybe you know some people who maybe do other products that they sell to these countries that may or may not sell off to Russia. Let me know what you guys honestly think about this story, and it's exclusive in the comment section down below. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share us across social media and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or you can even join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. And you can watch that content for free. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.